Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are kicking off Monday with a pretty small slate for a Monday right now. Had a big Sunday night NBA day there. So we are looking at a few games here. This one is going to be the Milwaukee Bucks, who are a bunch of men down tonight, once again on another back-to-back game against Charlotte, who they played a couple nights ago as well, and lost despite an incredible performance from Giannis. So we'll look at some of this stuff. Make sure you do check out Nate's great article up on playpicks.com with some of those best bets and player props for you, and like and subscribe to that page, and check out the other couple videos we have for you today as well, including that player props video. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, the Bucks at -2 right now. I believe that's been creeping up despite all their absences here, and the total creeping up to 236.5 as we speak. One of the highest totals we've seen all season in this lower scoring NBA season. And yeah, there's 6 other games here on Monday night. The Jazz are -11 at the Pistons. I think not expecting Rudy Gobert there, but Donovan Mitchell is back. The Spurs, still missing a few key wing players, are +6 at the Knicks. The Pacers +6.5 at the Celtics, total hovering around 213 right now. The red-hot 76ers -10.5 at the Rockets. The Cavs are -5.5 at the Kings. And then Kyrie Irving rejoins the Nets in Portland. -9 there are the Nets. Total all the way up at 228 with the big three intact. We'll talk about that one a little bit, and the Pacers Celtics as well. But Bucks Hornets here, an interesting case study as always with the home and home. 2-night slate here. What we had on Saturday was the Bucks without Drew Holiday, Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, George Hill, and of course still without DiVincenzo, who's been basically out all season. They lost 114 to 106 despite 43 and 12 from Giannis. Went 18 for 20 at the free throw line, which is definitely not typical from a guy who shoots around 60% at the line. Chris Middleton, also really high splits. I mean, you look at the Bucks bench, it was almost non-existent in that game. So the first thing I would expect is even less offense, honestly, than from that 106 total. I mean, I think they can still get to the total. Maybe they'll ramp up the pace a little bit, but Milwaukee's pace has not been blinding recently. In their last 4 games, they've gone under in 3 of their last 4, with either Drew or Giannis missing in one of those games. Their pace has dropped to 100.08. That's about 10th in the league over the season. Their defensive rating goes up a little bit without Drew, but their offensive rating plummets further. And I think that's really the key here. I know they're favorites, but I would consider them underdogs based on the situation. And they're 8-3 to the under when they are underdogs. 12-10 to the under on the road. Slight difference there. And the Hornets, who are usually over machines, you just told me that they're up to 10th in defensive rating in their last 4 or 5 games. Yeah. 7 games. Yeah. Wow. That's a stark turnaround there for sure. And I mean, when you can really just key in on 1 or 2 guys when there's no role players available, I feel like the Hornets can play good enough defense to keep this game below the 120s, which is basically what you would need for an over. Even with LaMelo and playing this style, they've gone under at or under 230 combined in 4 of the last 5 meetings between these teams. And that's when they're close to full strength. That's with Giannis putting up these ridiculous numbers. And I think even if he does put up that kind of line, we're just not going to get to 236. This seems like it'll keep climbing because of the perception of both these teams. And so I think you kind of just zig the other way and say, I'll take an under rather than trying to predict whether the Bucks are going to win. They've just been so up and down lately.
Yeah, no, I fully support that. The trend over the last few meetings between these teams has actually been, Charlotte covering 4 of their last 5 against Milwaukee, including 2 of those in Milwaukee. So, they do seem to be able to hang with them. There was a game earlier this season, before the last game they played, Milwaukee actually had to come back from down about 20 at one point in the first half against Charlotte there with all three of their guys. So I think right now it's the fact that it's back to that sort of Milwaukee team without any of their players that we saw for so long this season, which is why they fell, all the way down to about fifth or so in the East before coming back up. And now they're back to second. But, it is about what they don't do with Drew Holiday, and what they don't do first and foremost is really win as much. Obviously, they're 3-6 this season straight up. When Drew is missing in 9 games, their offensive rating jumps or drops completely down from 115 to 105 when he's not in. 112 is their defensive rating when he's not playing. 108 when he does play. So 4 or 5 points per 100 possession better on defense with him. 10 points worse without him on offense. And the fact that actually does lead to the fact that they go under without Drew Holiday, which is really interesting that, in 8 of the last, each of their last 8 games rather, without Drew, all those games for Milwaukee have gone under. And also the Hornets at home right now, they've covered in 11 of their last 12 at home this season, which is, wild in terms of the difference that you've seen from them. A lot of the differences that they had, when they've been an up and down team this year as well too, missing some guys, but in their last, roughly 12 games, they started out pretty poorly, and now they're right back to where they are in form. And that's because they had a huge road trip that they just got crushed on, and lost about 4 or 6 there. And then, now they've been at home. And like I said, covering the spread at least in 11 of their last 12. I don't like you said, I don't like Milwaukee without Drew Holiday, without Pat Connaughton, George. There's just not enough scoring. I mean, not only did Giannis go for 43 and 12 in a loss by 8 points to Charlotte last game, Chris Middleton almost had a triple double with 27 points, 10 boards, and 9 assists. And all of their shooting splits were incredible. Right, they were insane on offense. You mentioned Giannis shooting 18 or 20 from the line, 90%. Chris Middleton actually shot even better splits, including 67% from 3 and 100% from the line, getting 5 attempts. So, their offense is 2 guys that can definitely get 70 points by themselves easy. They proved it last game. But that doesn't mean that they're going to have any other scoring at this point when you've got 5 of your top 7 scorers not playing in this game, just like they didn't in last game. I don't like the Bucks to be able to get, close to that 118, 120 total that, this game is going to need to see for this game to get to almost 240 points. So I do feel a lot better about the under first and foremost. I do think Giannis is somebody that you eye, and I know you have some stuff about him as well, like for some of his props tonight, because it is a game where I think even if Giannis does get his 43 and 12, let's say 35 and 10, whatever it is, that's not enough for the Bucks to score with these Hornets, who are still going to get their 110 plus at home like they do every time, which is actually 112 at home. So I think that's what we're looking right now, under Charlotte and still Giannis, right?
Yeah, I mean, Giannis is the one factor that scares me about just saying, let's take the Hornets in this spot, because I mean, he's a transcendent player, and he just did what he does in a bounce back spot against Brooklyn and really just completely shut that game down with his presence on both ends of the floor. To me, that's more about under. I mean, he's still a defensive player of the year who's going to make it difficult for Charlotte to just run and gun and pull away from this. And they had some outliers too. They had Terry Rozier, 11 for 18 from the floor, 6 of 10 from 3. I mean, a lot of that is Drew Holiday being out. He's more free to cook, but those shots aren't all going to go down necessarily. And with Giannis, his props are insanely high tonight, but I would just keep it probably with the simple 31.5 points and assume he's going to maintain this absurd usage rate without Drew here in his last 2 games. He's posting a 141 offensive rating and getting 37 points per game, including that last one against Charlotte. And now you look at his last 6 against Charlotte, it's 36 points per game, 15 rebounds, 7 assists at a 35% usage rate. 31.5 or 32.5 points. It keeps fluctuating a little bit. Or the 44.5 points and rebounds, because a team like Charlotte that still does play with plenty of pace gives you a lot of rebounding opportunities, and he has done that. And their offense is going to be a little helter-skelter with Giannis doing that thing where he gets a few offensive rebounds off his own misses and just tries to impose his will in the paint. I mean, that's what I think we're going to see here most reliably is Giannis trying to turn on his MVP form and say, we lost to these guys 2 nights ago, but I can carry us again on both ends of the floor. And that's the key. It's not just saying, we're going to win a shootout here that's going to go over. That's why I feel better about the under a lot, despite taking his props in this spot.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, if you felt, like you wanted to, like this game's gonna be close and Giannis is gonna have to really eke it out if Milwaukee does win, then you would consider even maybe a tease with the Charlotte line there, get them up to about 6.5 points. You might feel a little bit better about that because to your point, I do like Charlotte in this one. I mean, the Bucks without Drew Holiday, it's just, I mean, they've lost 9 of their last 12 when he doesn't play, right? Including dating back to even last season. So how important he is to this team, which is why I do feel like Charlotte should be favored. But outside of that, most important is best bet under in this game. But I do still also like, I think, one thing I found there on DraftKings, LaMelo Ball's assist prop is pretty low. It's at about 6.5 right now for him. He's been getting assists all over the place, especially against Milwaukee, actually. And he's gotten 8 or more assists in the last 3 that he's played them. So he's had at least 8 in their last 3 against Milwaukee. They have been giving up a decent amount of assists as of late. And Charlotte is one of the best assisting teams in the league right now, especially over their last 7 with, the second highest assist to turnover ratio, et cetera. And they've also been getting a ton of points off fast breaks, which I really like because Milwaukee has been turning the ball over in their last 4 a ton, especially with a guy like Drew sitting. So that's honestly, there's some pretty good value in this game here. And I think we're both finding a lot of that, like we said, in Giannis, but then also that under there. So that is all the time we have in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Check out those other couple videos we have for you today. Until we see you next, happy betting.